at the heart of the glittering Forrester International Fashion Show in Milan, as cameras flashed and models took to the runway in gowns worth more than most people's homes. No one anticipated that the most unforgettable moment of the night wouldn't be a dress, but a girl. A young woman in her early 20s, with piercing eyes and an uncanny resemblance to both Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan, stepped onto the stage, not as part of the show, but to stop it. Holding a sealed DNA report, she spoke only once before chaos broke loose. "I am the daughter of Ridge and Brooke." The room froze. Brooke gasped. Ridge's eyes locked on the girl. Hope Logan, poised to take the final bow as the show's creative director, stood paralyzed. The crowd buzzed in confusion, but the Forresters knew. Something serious had just detonated, and the ripple would reach all corners of their lives. The woman's name was Luna, and her existence rewrote history. Back in Los Angeles, media outlets pounced on the story. A secret child? A hidden heir? Even in a family used to scandal, this hit differently. Ridge and Brooke were forced to confront a truth they had buried, or so they thought. 20 years ago, in the early days of their stormy romance, Brooke had discovered she was pregnant following one of her intense, but short-lived reconciliations with Ridge. At the time, Ridge had already returned to Taylor, and Brooke chose to keep the pregnancy quiet. She traveled to Europe under the guise of business and intended to raise the child on her own. But fate had other plans. Just days before her due date, Brooke was involved in a severe car accident on a winding country road outside Florence. Her body was found unconscious near the wreckage. She was rushed to a private clinic where doctors told her the devastating news: her baby hadn't survived the trauma. Grief-stricken and drugged from surgeries, Brooke accepted it. She buried her pain and, when she returned to Los Angeles, she told no one, not even Ridge. What she never knew was that the baby hadn't died. A nurse working in that same clinic, desperate for a child of her own and involved in an underground adoption network, had faked the death record. Brooke's daughter was taken while she was unconscious. That baby grew up in the shadows of the fashion world, drifting through various foster homes across Europe, never knowing where she came from. Until she found a document that changed everything. Luna had spent the last 5 years hunting for the truth. She tracked hospital records, adoption agencies, and eventually took a DNA test that led her to the Forresters. When she learned about the Milan fashion show, she decided it was time to reveal herself, no matter the cost. The fallout was instant. Ridge was shaken to his core. Realizing that he had unknowingly fathered and abandoned a child, he ended his relationship with Taylor almost immediately. The weight of what had happened, the deception, the lost time, it was too much to ignore. Taylor, blindsided, begged for an explanation, but Ridge gave none. He simply left, flying back to LA with Brooke and Luna. Hope, meanwhile, was reeling. Everything she knew, everything she believed about her mother, her place in the family, was suddenly in question. Hope had always fought for her legitimacy. As the daughter of Deacon Sharp, she had struggled for years to be accepted by the Forresters. Her mother's love affair with Ridge, on and off as it was, gave Hope a foothold in the fashion dynasty. She had built hope for the future on that legacy. And now, in one moment, Luna threatened to take it all. Hope's first instinct was denial. She accused Luna of being a fraud, a manipulator looking to hijack the Forrester name. But the DNA evidence was clear. Ridge took his own test, and the results left no room for doubt. Luna was his daughter. Brooke, shattered by the truth, could barely look at Luna at first. The guilt of believing her daughter had died, of never fighting to verify it, overwhelmed her. Yet slowly, painfully, she began to connect with Luna, not as a stranger, but as the child she had loved and lost before ever holding. But the past wasn't done with them. Luna's return didn't just disrupt lives. It reawakened secrets long buried. Questions emerged about the crash that nearly killed Brooke. Luna's record showed inconsistencies, missing files, misdated forms, staff who mysteriously disappeared after the incident. Ridge, determined to understand what really happened, hired a private investigator. What they found stunned them. The crash hadn't been an accident. A technician revealed that Brooke's car had been tampered with. Brakes had been loosened. Emergency call logs had been edited. Someone wanted Brooke gone. And if Luna had died, it would have been the perfect cleanup. The list of suspects wasn't long. At the time, Ridge had been with Taylor. Stephanie, Ridge's fiercely protective mother, had despised Brooke for decades and would have done anything to keep her out of Ridge's life. But Stephanie was dead now, and if she had orchestrated something, there was no way to confront her. Unless others had known. Eric Forrester, patriarch of the family, began to piece together timelines. He remembered a large payment Stephanie had made to a clinic in Europe, a payment he had never questioned. Confronted, Eric admitted he suspected Stephanie might have been involved in something, but he had no proof. Luna now carried not only a legacy, but a mystery. Meanwhile, Taylor wasn't going down quietly. Publicly embarrassed, personally devastated, and now professionally threatened by Luna's integration into Forrester Creations, Taylor vowed to protect her son Thomas and her daughter Steffi from the fallout. Taylor knew that Ridge's attention would now shift entirely to Luna and possibly to making up for lost time by giving her a position of power in the company. That could impact Steffi's role, Thomas's future, and Hope's leadership over Hope for the future. The boardroom became a battleground. Luna, a trained designer in her own right, proposed a new line, Resurgence, a label focused on reclamation, identity, and healing. Brooke supported it. Ridge backed it. And suddenly, Luna wasn't just a forgotten daughter. She was competition. Hope resisted fiercely. She argued that the company couldn't afford to splinter focus. She accused Luna of using her trauma as a publicity tool. But behind the scenes, she feared something worse. That the world would fall in love with Luna the way they once fell in love with Hope. That hope for the future would become a relic. The press devoured the story. Luna became a media darling overnight. Interviews, profiles, editorials, all painted her as the wronged heiress. Fashion houses reached out. Offers came in. But Luna stayed with Forrester. She said it wasn't about fame. It was about identity. About taking her place. Hope was forced to share press tours, photo shoots, and eventually office space. But the tension boiled over when Liam Spencer, Hope's on-and-off-again husband, began showing sympathy toward Luna. He said she deserved a chance. He invited her to charity events. Hope noticed. And when she confronted him, he didn't deny his interest. She's not trying to steal anything, he told Hope. She's trying to understand where she belongs. That sentence broke something between them. Brooke, too, faced backlash. Steffi accused her of hiding the truth for years. Even if Brooke hadn't known Luna was alive, the decision to disappear during the pregnancy had far-reaching effects. Brooke apologized, again and again, but the damage had been done. The company now faced a choice, adapt to the new reality or fracture. Ridge called a meeting. We either move forward as one family, he said, or we destroy each other piece by piece. Some backed Luna. Some backed Hope. And then Luna spoke. She told them that she didn't come for revenge, money, or status. She came for truth. But now that she was here, she wouldn't step aside. She had every right to the Forrester name. Every right to the legacy. And if that made her an enemy, so be it. The meeting ended in silence. As weeks passed, alliances shifted. Hope, realizing Luna wasn't going away, extended a reluctant olive branch. You may be my sister, she said. But that doesn't mean I have to like you. Luna replied, I didn't come to be liked. I came to be seen. Ridge and Brooke stood between them, proud but cautious. The past had returned in the form of a lost daughter, and nothing would be the same again. And yet, As Luna looked out over the Forrester estate from the balcony of the mansion that was now half hers by blood, a figure watched her from the shadows. An older woman, holding an old photo. Stephanie's confidant, a nurse from the past, now aged but not forgotten. The real story of the night Luna was taken hadn't been fully told. Not yet. And the next chapter would reveal that some secrets were buried so deep, even death hadn't silenced them. The war for the future of Forrester Creations had just begun. And at its center stood two daughters, one born into legacy, one stolen from it, both determined not to lose. The days following Luna's shocking reveal brought an uneasy calm. Forrester Creations continued to operate, but tension filled every corridor. Loyalty lines blurred. Board meetings became hostile. Employees whispered about where their futures lay, Team Hope or Team Luna. In Brooke's mansion, Ridge tried to bridge the gap between his daughters. He arranged private dinners, offered joint design sessions, even proposed a collaborative line featuring both Hope and Luna. But neither woman was willing to bend. Hope resented Luna's rise. Luna couldn't forget being abandoned. And behind their silent glares was the growing truth. There could only be one face of the next era at Forrester. Meanwhile, Luna's investigation into her own past took a dark turn. After Ridge's private investigator found signs of foul play surrounding the car crash, Luna hired her own researcher, someone not tied to the Forrester name. What he discovered rocked her world: a birth certificate showing her original name, handwritten notes from the Italian clinic, and most damning of all, a forged death certificate. The nurse who signed it? Elena Rossi. A woman who had worked for the Forresters during the Milan expansion project. A woman who had once been close to Stephanie Forrester. Luna tracked her down. Now old, fragile, and living in seclusion in the outskirts of Tuscany, Elena initially refused to talk. But when Luna presented the documents and threatened to go public, the old woman broke. Her voice trembled as she told the truth. 20 years ago, Stephanie Forrester had contacted her through a mutual acquaintance, saying she needed a problem handled quietly. A woman, Brooke, was pregnant with Ridge's child. That child was a threat to the Forrester legacy. Stephanie wanted the child placed elsewhere, where she would never reappear. Elena said she never intended to steal the baby. But once Brooke crashed, and the panic set in, she followed the orders. She marked the child as stillborn and handed her off to a contact in a private adoption ring. She hadn't known what would become of the baby. She was paid to disappear. She had done so until now. Luna returned to Los Angeles reeling. She confronted Ridge with the truth. Ridge's face turned white. Stephanie, his mother, his protector, his moral compass, had orchestrated the theft of his own child. He felt the ground vanish beneath his feet. He went to Eric, demanding answers. Eric, pale and silent, could only confirm what Ridge now feared. Stephanie had acted alone. And in her own twisted way, she had done it for him. The scandal would destroy them if it got out. A secret child. A fake death. A corporate cover-up. But Luna didn't care about the family's legacy. She wanted justice. She wanted truth. And most of all, she wanted Stephanie's crimes acknowledged. Ridge begged her not to go to the press. Brooke broke down, sobbing, not for herself but for the decades lost. "If I had only known," she whispered, "I would have burned the world to find you." Hope, hearing the story, finally began to soften. The pain in Luna's eyes mirrored her own. She realized this woman wasn't the enemy. She was another Logan, forged in pain, shaped by abandonment. Hope met Luna at the studio late one night. She stood in silence for a moment, then simply said, "Maybe there's room for both of us." It wasn't friendship. But it was a start. Then came another twist. Thomas Forrester, always scheming, saw an opportunity. If Luna and Hope were to compete side by side, maybe he could use Luna to dismantle Hope's dominance. He began to show interest, professionally at first, offering to help with Luna's design concepts. Then personally. Compliments turned to long conversations, late-night texts, shared meals. Hope saw it. Thomas claimed it was nothing. But old wounds don't heal easily. Hope remembered all the manipulation, the obsession, the lies. And now he was sniffing around her half-sister? It stung more than she cared to admit. Steffi, watching from afar, warned Luna not to get too close to Thomas. He's dangerous when he gets fixated, she said. But Luna brushed it off. She believed she could handle him. What she didn't know was that Thomas was already planning to use their budding relationship to get a controlling interest in Forrester. All he needed was Luna's signature on the right document. Meanwhile, Liam spiraled. Watching Hope inch closer to Luna emotionally, professionally, and Thomas inch closer to Luna romantically, he felt squeezed out. He began drinking again, skipping meetings, and finally, one night, confronted Luna outside Forrester's offices. "You're not just destroying the company," he slurred. "You're destroying my marriage." Luna, calm and sharp, replied, maybe it was already broken. The confrontation went viral. A paparazzo caught the exchange. The next day, tabloids ran with headlines. Asterisk Luna versus Hope, sisters at war. Ridge's hidden child threatens empire. Liam Spencer in breakdown, asterisk, but the worst was yet to come. The day before the launch of Luna's new line, Resurgence, she received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photo, Brooke's crashed car from 20 years ago, taken after the police arrived. But in the background stood a shadowed figure. A woman. Watching from a hilltop. The note read, asterisk, she saw everything. She never left. Asterisk Luna brought it to Ridge and Brooke. They scanned the image over and over, but neither could identify the figure. Then Eric walked in. He took one look and froze. "That's Sheila Carter," he whispered. Brooke dropped the photo. Sheila, long thought gone, was alive, and had been present the night of the crash. If that was true, then Luna's origin was entangled with a woman far more dangerous than anyone imagined. If Sheila had witnessed the crash or worse, interfered, then the mystery wasn't just about theft or deception. It was about manipulation, possibly even murder. As the Resurgence fashion show began, Luna stood backstage, surrounded by cameras, press, and power. But her eyes weren't on the runway. They were on the crowd, on the shadows, searching for someone watching, for someone waiting. Because she now knew the past hadn't just followed her. It was still here. And it was unfinished. The storm wasn't over. It had only just begun.